All right, everyone, welcome back into another props bet. Going to be touching on my 6 favorite prop bets here for the traditional sports books in week 6. Let's go ahead and get into it. And so, yes, you guys did catch that right. I said traditional sports books. So DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, Hard Rock Bet, ESPN Bet, all those. We're going to be concentrating on those bets. These are going to be my 6 favorite bets for this. If you guys are someone that follows me for like PrizePicks or Underdog content, you can still use these bets. I would suggest just using them on a site like Fliff or like Sleeper. Like that's how I've been using these bets, is mostly on Sleeper. I'm someone that has to drive like 15 minutes to the border to place bets if I want to on a traditional sportsbook. Given the fact that Fliff and Sleeper have been giving us decent payouts with some of these bets that I've been recommending, to the point, guys, where I went back and tracked it, because typically I only track like the PrizePicks Underdog picks. Now, obviously last week was a great week. Like the only pick that I think I gave out that missed was Wicks, but on the season thus far, 33 for 47. I mean, it's been insane. I mentioned a lot on PrizePicks and Underdog with those prop bets. It's kind of been an annoying year because a lot of the bets that were popping up, I kind of like the opposite of on. And if you guys are unfamiliar with the strategy for PrizePicks and Underdog, it's basically we're gaining an edge on PrizePicks and Underdog via the Vegas lines. And if I disagree with the Vegas lines, obviously that kind of hurts that strategy. And that's happened a lot. And so I figured, why not just make a separate video for those people that are placing these bets more on traditional sports books. So we'll go ahead and start off with probably my favorite one, and that is going to be Jalen Polk to get over 2.5 receptions, and that's going to be the best bet is going to be on DraftKings, where it's going to be plus 115 for you guys. So if you can shop around, that's the best odds bet that we have. Now, the reason why I like this is kind of twofold. One, we have seen his snaps now go up from about 50% through the first 3 weeks to 83% in week 4, and then in week 5, it went up to 50%. I mean, obviously that's huge. Now, that hasn't led to an extreme connection for him in terms of receptions, in terms of having a big game. But last week he did have 6 targets, so I like to see that. Almost had a touchdown, just missed out on it, like a toe tap. Then the week prior to that, he had 7 targets, was able to get 3 receptions in that game. Then I would argue if you extend these 2 games out, week 3 and week 2 to his snap share that he's been getting right now, he would have gotten the overs in those games as well. But to me, a big thing is going to be Drake Mays is going to be his quarterback. Now, you might not think that that's going to be an upgrade. I don't really see it being a downgrade. And also, you get Drake May against the Houston Texans, which is going to be the easiest matchup thus far this year for this offense. And then on top of that, you look at some of the preseason production that Jalen Polk had with Drake May. Jalen Polk had 2 receptions, and 3 receptions in those games. And what's important to note is that he wasn't playing a full snap share like he's going to be projected to play this week. And so that's going to be one of my favorite bets there, plus 115 on DraftKings. And then my next favorite bet is going to be Stephon Diggs getting over 5.5 receptions. Now, again, we're doing a little bit of odd shopping here. We can see on ESPN Bet, we can get this at minus 110 for him to get over 5.5 receptions. Now, part of this is obviously going to be the fact that Nico Collins is going to be out this week, which should lead to a little bit more of a higher target share for Diggs, but also tacked on the fact that Joe Mixon could be out as well. I think that might promote a little bit more pass attempts in this game. Now, that being said, you do worry a little bit about the blowout potential in this game. 7 points is a lot. So maybe the playing time is a little bit capped. That's like my biggest concern. And I think that's why we're getting this line the way that it is, given the blowout nature of this game. But that's where I kind of like using maybe Polk with Diggs as well. I think that's where those two maybe correlate, hoping that the game stays a little bit close, especially into the fourth quarter. Now, when we take a peek at Diggs' game log, we're going to see that, the target share has been there for sure. I mean, 6 targets, 12, 9, 8. The target share has been there. And he's gotten this over in 3 out of the 5 games thus far this season. Now you make him the focal point in this offense, and to me, that's highly appealing. Now, if he doesn't get this over, Tank Dell's at 4.5 receptions. Like, I don't hate that, but I think it just makes the most sense to go with Diggs in this matchup. And that's mostly just due to the fact that Dell has been used in more kind of gadgety ways. At the same time, I don't hate that. If you guys want to chase the Tank Dell over receptions as well, you can. Now, another bet that I like is going to be a bet that you could almost use as an arbitrage bet. Now, it's not exactly that, but you almost could. And what I mean by that is like you're guaranteed to have a profit. That's not exactly the case. It would be a slight loss if you guys do this, but it's somewhat worth calling out. Like ESPN Bet has this at plus 110 for him to get over 4.5 receptions. And basically every other site is still favoring the under, but it's almost like a 50-50, especially when we go to DraftKings that has it at minus 110. They're favoring the under there. So I did want to call that out. It's almost arbitrary bet. If you guys maybe like one side better than the other, just make the best decision possible. Like, obviously, if you like the under, bet the under on DraftKings. If you like the over here, bet the over on ESPN Bet. Obviously, I like the over here. And part of the reason that's why I like the over is going to be the matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles. This has proven to be a good matchup. Now, the Eagles are coming in off of a bye. We'll see if the defense looks a little bit better. And I know some people are going to say, well, he's only gotten the over once thus far this season. And that was in maybe their most difficult matchup like last week. Amari Cooper should have been able to get this over pretty easily. 10 targets in that game. He's had the targets. He's had a couple of drops. This just seems like a good get right spot for this offense. And I know a lot of people are going to say Deshaun Watson hasn't been playing well. I get it, but it is tough to ignore the snaps that Amari Cooper has been playing as well. We look at the defense, not exactly giving up 4.42 receptions, but again, I love the matchup. This should be a get right spot for this offense. And it's tough for them to look any worse than they've had. And it's just, given Amari Cooper's kind of career, this is like the perfect game for him to like just go off. That's just kind of what he's done in his career. Disappoints when you don't want him to. And then once your expectations for him are low, he just goes off. And that kind of feels like this game. Again, if you don't like this one necessarily, you can do the opposite on DraftKings. And so another bet that I decently like is going to be staying with that same game. Devonta Smith over 5.5 receptions. Now, he is coming in off of a concussion, but like he should be good to go. They had a bye week last week. I'm assuming he's going to play. AJ Brown is going to be back for that game as well. So, might take a little bit of the role away from Devonta Smith, but Devonta Smith has gotten this over in 3 straight games thus far this season. He's actually gotten 7 receptions in every game thus far. But again, AJ Brown was out in some of those games, so not exactly a 1-for-1 swap when looking at those stats. The nice thing about this bet is that there are several sites that are giving this at plus 110. And he's not exactly projected to get the over. But that's why the over is not the favorite to hit. I'm trying to find the best bets here that we can place that are going to be like plus 100 or so. That if we continue to chase those bets and continue to hit them at an extremely good rate, we're going to continue to be profitable. And I think that this is going to be one of those bets here. And if you look at the matchup here, you would say that the matchup with the receivers is definitely the easier matchup compared to like the running backs and tight ends as well. So I do expect that to lead to good production for Devonta Smith. Typically the worry with the Eagles is that 2 out of the 3 pass catchers typically do not have good games. But typically speaking, when AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are active, Dallas Goedert is the one that is not having a good game. And so another bet that I really like is going to be Darnell Mooney to get over 4.5 receptions in this game against the Carolina Panthers. Now, they're a defense that, if you look at Darnell Mooney's role, doesn't present like him getting the over. But if you look at his average, he averages 4.8 receptions on the season, playing a heavy target share as well. This is one of those things where if you look at his line compared to Drake London's, I don't think it should be that great. Like we look at Drake London, he's favored to get over 5.5 receptions. And if you look at it, like Darnell Mooney's the one that has been getting some of these manufactured touches in the offense where, you're getting him the ball in like receiver screens and whatnot. Ray McLeod as well. But given the matchup with the Panthers as well, like this almost seems like one that we should just be hammering home, especially if that run game, John Robinson, is not going to be doing as well. I do think he is going to have a good game for that matter, but that Carolina defense just looked bad across the board. Pass defense, rush defense, they looked terrible last week. And so I think that Smith can have a good game. I think London can have a good game. I think that this could actually be kind of the same game that we saw last week for the Falcons. My biggest worry is the fact that this game maybe could be a little bit of a letdown. It could be a little bit of a trap game for them coming in off of that high of that game, but still 4.5 receptions for Darnell Mooney does seem to be a little bit too low. You get that on ESPN bet, Hard Rock bet, or BetMGM, plus 115 there. And yes, I know I gave you guys that bet for Darnell Mooney a few times thus far this season. Going to do the same here now with Jalen Tolbert. Now, this line with Jalen Tolbert is going to be a line that I think you could actually tease a little bit. I could see him having a much bigger, better game than this, but the fact that we're getting him at minus 128 on FanDuel to get over 3.5 receptions to me is extremely intriguing. Last week, I was pretty much hammering home that Jalen Tolbert would have a big game, that I really liked him to have a great game because he was going to step up into a better role. I mentioned he looked very talented while he was on the field with Brandon Cooks. Like, I didn't see a difference. And then when you take Brandon Cooks out of that equation, it's just natural that he elevates into a bigger role, not only in the snap counts, but just on the field. And we did see that happen last week as well. And so I would argue the line probably should be at 4.5 receptions. Maybe you would favor the under there a little bit, but the fact that we're getting this at minus 128 on FanDuel seems to be a great line for me. And we just look at the matchup here. This is one of the easiest matchups for opposing receivers thus far this season. Now, again, Detroit is coming in off of a bye. That is a little bit of a concern, I would say, but 7 receptions last week. Again, in that expanded role. To me, that's just going to be one of the better bets that we can make this week. 10 targets last week, huge. I don't mind Jake Ferguson as well to get over 4.5 receptions, but that's heavily favorited as well. And then while you guys are here, we are getting several bets that are currently big edges on these different sports books. We should never be getting a plus in the edge column. That tells us that we are getting a clear outlier on these bets. Now, these are all on FanDuel. And basically what that's saying is the average sportsbook line has taken out the juice of these bets. Then we can compare them against a specific sportsbook's lines with juice associated with them. The edge should never be positive. So we got 4 bets here that you guys can go ahead and use there. Those are great bets. Those are going to be consistently popping up into this 9 to 5 player props cheat sheet that is available on the website for just $10 a month. If you guys want access to that, head on over there. But that's going to be all for this video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Give a like. If you guys are new to the channel, give a subscribe. Again, going to be doing a little bit more of these traditional bets throughout the week as well, highlighting them a little bit more clearly for that audience as well. So again, if you're new, make sure to subscribe. If you guys want access to that cheat sheet, head on over to 95sports.com. Can be found under the More tab, and then click on the NFL cheat sheet. That'll give you access to that sheet.